Thank you and welcome to Business Planning 2023. This is the Smith team. I am Austin Smith of the Smith team. We have Brad Smith, Tim Streets, Jess Orr will be in here shortly, and then Jim Bugles is our marketing guy who's been the one helping correspond with us. So thank you so much. We very much appreciate this. Business is what we do, right? Real estate is a business. Living is a business. We treat it like a business on our side, and we think it's very important that you all know what it's like to run a business, get some feedback, some thoughts that we've kind of compiled and put together within real estate is that, you know, a lot of broker owners don't give this side of things to you, right? How do you treat this like a business? How do you plan like a business? How do you prepare like a business? How do you structure things like a business? And that's one thing that we all do is we run our own business. And so we thought that it would be pretty cool to give you guys a different point of view on that. Year to date, did we get that from Rich? I didn't see that in my email.
Yeah, we're 107.
107 million on the Smith team, and that's going to be what? 426. Yeah, 426. So year to date, 15, that was through November, was 426 units and 107 million. So from that perspective, we are blessed. We're blessed that we're successful, blessed that we've got 4 sides of town that we're covering. And we thought that would be very helpful to share with you guys on how to make 2023 better than 2022. If you think that that's possible, because we do. So,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so when Austin first approached me with the idea of doing this, I really kind of thought, what does anybody care what I have to say when you're a real estate agent and I'm a loan officer, right? Like, what's the difference? And the more I got to think about it, and especially when he told me that we had an expert speaker coming in as well, that's going to give us a lot of the presentation, I thought there was a lot of value here for real estate agents. When I saw her speak, and a lot of it was gauged towards real estate, I learned a lot from it. And so to me, success is parallel to the person. Like, I've always felt that I don't care what field I go into, I'm going to find a way to be successful in that field. And there's really certain parameters that I have to follow in order to do that. And to me, the number one thing, and we're going to touch on a lot of these, and when we're done, we're going to recap a lot of it. But the number one thing to me is just hard work, right? Like that doesn't change no matter what your field is working hard, putting in the time, putting in the effort. So this is part of it, you know, showing up, being there, doing the work. I'm really glad that each of you are here. I hope you get a lot out of what we're getting ready to present, what we're getting ready to do. And again, we have some things and some points that Tim and Austin and I want to add at the end. But just showing up and doing the work is the first step, and you've all done that. So I'm excited for you to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, very thankful you guys are here. So we're gonna have Cole Finley. She runs her own coaching company. She was a master planner with Keller Williams for years. So she's written some of their stuff. So if you were ever in the Keller Williams pipeline, what she touches on might sound or seem familiar, which is great. We're all about multiple voices, right? Brad's a voice, I'm a voice, Tim's a voice. We have leadership roles in our pipeline and our chain outside. Cole's another voice, right? You guys are going to have lots of voices in your life, and she's just going to be a voice for you. So, you know, maybe approach it with that, hey, we're going to learn something today. We're going to hear something today that I didn't think that I could think about thinking about, right? Like, that's where we're going to go with this today, hopefully. So, I think we're about ready. Cole, you there?
I am here.
Perfect. Hey, Cole, how are you?
I am phenomenal. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Love it. I'm loving the thumbs up. See, I love that.
Yeah.
There we go. I love it. Hey, Austin, do I still have that little bit of delay between my mouth and my sound?
Yeah, it's about 0.47 seconds, but it's okay.
All right. Well, once we get into the presentation, I think that'll be okay. So I'm going to just freak you guys out for a few seconds, if that's all right.
That sounds good. We fed the hamsters again just to make sure they were running, but I don't know if that's going to speed up the Wi-Fi. So
hey, you know what? We are all good. That is all good. Hey, if you guys are okay, I do want to introduce myself just a little bit. You kind of see who the heck is talking to you today? So my name is Cole Finley, and I am a business and performance coach, as well as, like Austin said, the owner of my own coaching company, which is Finley-RE Coaching and Consulting. I have been a realtor since 2009. I can't believe it. It's almost 14 years. It's amazing. I actually got into the business just as everyone was getting out in the crash. I got in because I'm that crazy person. I was rookie of the year my very first year in real estate. I actually closed 36 transactions my first year. Yes, that was a little insane. It was fun stuff. I am a former Keller Williams CEO and team leader, like Austin said. I'm a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. I'm an instructional designer with over 25 years of experience as a course creator, trainer, and coach. I have actually done that for companies like Krispy Kreme, Blockbuster Video, and then the biggest one I did was with Microsoft. I used to design international training programs for them, so that was kind of fun before I got into real estate. And then also I'm the chief architect of our breakthroughre Facebook group and the 12 Weeks to Breakthrough training and coaching program. So here's my question. I want to chat with you guys just a little bit, but I want to see who's kind of in the room. All right, let's see who's been in the business the longest. Do me a favor, by raise of hands, tell me who has been in the business for like less than 5 years. Oh, wow. You go with your bad selves. Look at you being in here. How about 5 to 10? Okay. Okay, then we've got one person. I love it. 10 to 20, anybody? Yeah, the guys in the back. There you go. I love that. Okay, so we've got some folks who are relatively new in the business. So you are probably here because you have a lot of grit and a lot of determination, and you have decided you really want to learn how to do this business at a higher level. Raise your hands if that is correct for you guys. Awesome, awesome. Here's the thing that I really have learned over the past few years. I have a master's in human resource development and instructional design. Okay, now what that basically means is that there is formal design when it comes to training adults. It's called adult learning theory. And basically what it means is that when you go to a class, you want to learn something that you can use immediately, and you can relate it to other things that you have done in the past, right? And so you want to walk away from here today, I would assume, with a whole lot of good stuff. And that's what we're going to do today. Here's the challenge that I understand. Most companies out there, they've got some fairly good new agent training, but once you get out of new agent training, there's a lot of missing pieces. There really isn't training for agents who are experienced like you guys. No one's fault. It just kind of is there. And so you guys are left, like I said, grit and determination. You're going to go out and try to figure out the things that you can do. You go to classes, you see classes from your lenders, from your title reps, maybe from your board, and you are hoping that class is going to be just what you need. But here's the challenge. You need to know what you know. And if you don't know what you don't know, sometimes that's a waste of time, right? Has anybody had that experience? Raise your hand if you've just kind of gone, I guess, got to figure it out on my own a lot. Anybody? Yeah. So very, very common. So we're going to go into that a bit today. I am going to share with you some stuff. So here's the thing you want to make sure you do. If you want to have a calculator out, you're going to take a lot of notes. I am going to go through a lot of technical stuff. Okay. Little hard for me to see you as I'm going through it. So maybe Austin, if someone's got a burning question, feel free just to chime in and we can talk through it, but we will really kind of go in. Are you guys ready for some nitty gritty? I'm going to go a little bit deep. Everybody okay with that? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is really the 5 fundamentals of business planning. Now, I'm just to let you guys know, we are not going to be able to get through all 5 of these fundamentals, but I do have a solution for that at the end here today, but we're going to get into, and the biggest thing we're going to really talk about today is going to be fundamental number one, and that is all about knowing your numbers. Now, let me ask you guys this. Has anybody heard that in real estate, you need to know your numbers? Raise a hand. Okay, yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing I get. Most agents actually don't know what those numbers are supposed to be. Interesting, huh? So we're going to actually talk about what those numbers are today. The next fundamental is identify your client acquisition pillars. We are going to be discussing that today. I did decide to go and put that in our presentation today, so you will not have those pieces in your handouts. You're going to want to take a lot of notes, or you also can take pictures of the screen so we don't miss out on that. Next is we're going to assess your operation systems and support. We're not going to be able to get into that, but like I said, I've got a solution for you later on. Fundamental number 4 is create your strategic plan and your action plan. We are going to touch on that today. And then finally, create a budget, lead with revenue, which basically means don't put anything on credit card and always have a cash business, and then hold your money accountable. All right, are we ready to get started and get some nitty gritty? Let's do it. All right, so fundamental number 1 is all about knowing your numbers. Now, I am going to go ahead and preface this by this big, wonderful disclaimer, because we never, ever, ever want to break antitrust laws. So I'm going to read this for you guys. So read along with me. The data used to calculate price and commissions in this presentation are for example only. They are in no way intended to dictate a specific commission rate, commission amount, purchase prices, or any other form of fixed calculation. Here's the deal. Every single commission that you spend, purchase price, all of those things are absolutely negotiable. So are we all okay that this is only for example? Raise your hand if you're feeling like you're cool with me on that. Okay, I appreciate that. It is illegal by federal law to fix prices such as real estate commissions, rates, or to fix other terms or conditions of the broker-client relationship, group boycotts, or concerted refusal to deal with another competitor or a supplier. The antitrust laws apply to prohibit collective action by real estate professionals that restrain trade. Real estate practitioners and firms must take care not to only to avoid conduct that does violate the law, but also conduct that supports an inference of an unlawful agreement with other real estate professionals in restraint of trade. It is essential that real estate firms conduct training and practice vigilance to ensure that their activities and that of their salespeople and staff does not imply unlawful activity. Okay, so now we're all clear on that. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay, I'm going to introduce you something called the path to profit. And we are going to start off with the end in mind. So the very end is actually having profit. Anybody in here want to walk away with profit? A lot of profit in 2023. Yeah, I hope so. Awesome. Before profit comes GCI, your gross commission income. Before that comes closed sales. Before closed sales comes seller listings taken or buyer agency commitments. Then we have appointments held. And finally, before appointments held, we have lead generation. So basically, here's how it goes. Lead generation takes you to appointments held. Appointments held takes you to listings taken. Listings taken takes you to closed sales to gross commission, and gross commission after you've paid off your expenses to profit. So that is your path to getting to profit. So, but we start off with something called your personal budget macros. And basically what this means is we need to understand the absolute end in mind. And I'm actually going to stop my share for a second here, guys. All of you want to create a life that is worthy. How many of you guys are here in business to create a life for yourselves, for your family, to have something much better than maybe you started out with? Anybody here? Yeah, right? So a lot of people, when I talk to our clients and I say, okay, what do you want to achieve for 2023? What they normally tell me is, oh, I want to do 20 transactions, 24 transactions for the year. I say, great. Why? What do you think the answer is from there? Anybody have any idea what the answer I usually get is?
I don't know.
Okay, no, let me share it with you. Here's what it is people say, well, it was more than what I did last year. Anybody hear themselves say that before? It's more than what I did last year. But what we're going to talk about today is tying it to something. We want to make sure that our path to profit is tied to the life that we want to create. Does that make sense for you guys? Okay, so let's get into what that means. And it starts off with our personal budget macro categories. And here's where this starts out. So the first one is going to be bills and debt. Now, what this basically means is this is the money only to keep the roof over your head, food on the table, and the absolute necessities. These necessities are going to be things like you got to have your internet, because if you're working from home, you have to have that, right? You've got to be able to pay your insurance and your car insurance. You got to put gas in the car. But this is nothing fun. For example, it's not going to be that wonderful pair of shoes that you want to buy, or it's not going to be the vacations that you're going on. It's not even going to be the kids' soccer. This is just the things that keep life going, the absolute necessities. The next thing is going to be savings. Now, savings, the rule of thumb to have in your account for savings is 6 months. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Make it a year. You want to work with a year of your bills and your debt. So if you know what your bills and your debt on that, savings should be a minimum of 6 months. I'm going to strongly suggest that you have a year. And the reason we want to do that is sometimes we're going to have some lean years. Okay. I remember it was really lean in 2009 for a lot of agents. And so we want to make sure that we've got some money really in the bank so we're not stressing, because you know what happens when we really stress? We start getting something called commission breath. Buy for me, please. Buy for me, buy for me, buy for me. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are not in that state. Next thing is going to be investments. This is really important. Hopefully we want to have your money making money. Now, here comes the fun. Okay. How many vacations do you want to go on with your family? How many things that you want to buy? Do you want to do that bathroom remodel? Do you want to really buy a new car? What are all those things you want? And that really falls into the fun category. Then there are charitable contributions. You may or may not do this, but maybe you tithe to your church, or maybe you have a favorite charity that you work with. Now, here's the thing that a lot of agents ask me at this point in time. They say, well, I have a spouse. So what happens if the spouse pays into this and I pay into this? You can certainly look at the percentages of that, but I think your best practice is, what if all of these were your responsibility and everything that your spouse brought in was extra? What kind of life then could you create together? So put that in mind about what could be possible for you, and let's see if you can do it. And these are all your numbers. Now, if we add all of these things up, they equal net profit. Net profit, if you can think about it, it's like, how many of you guys had a job before, like a job, where you actually went and someone paid you a paycheck? Anybody do that before? Yeah, probably all of us, right? Think about net profit as everything after taxes. This is like your net paycheck. That's net profit. Okay, so let's look at some examples of how this would work. All right, so first of all, bills and debt. Let's make the assumption in our example here, and our person is going to have, and we'll call her Jane. Let's say Jane, monthly, she spends $7,500 just for her bills. Annually, that'd be $90,000. Then let's say in savings, she wants to put 6 months of savings in. Maybe she's already even got 6 months of savings in the account. So now she wants to add an additional 6 months. So that's going to be a total of $45,000. As you can see, that is going to be 50% of those bills. The next thing is going to be investments. So let's say she wants to do $34.50 a month, or a total of $41,000 for the year. for fun, want to have some fun, about 2,000 a month. And so that's going to end up being 24,000 a year. We're going to want to go on some vacations. We want to be able to buy some things and have a quality of life. So all in, what that gives us is 16,700 for the year, or for a total of $200,000. How many of you think $200,000 would be a good amount to have for your profit? What do you think? Anybody like 200,000? Okay. How many of you like more than 200,000? Anybody want more than 200,000? Yeah, me too. That's awesome. But we're going to use 200,000 as our benchmark here. All right. Now, if we know that having 200,000 is going to be really getting us the life that we want to live, now that number, that net profit number, is tied to something. So when we start saying know your numbers, the first number we know is what we want to have to create the life we want to live. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. Okay, great. Now we're going to take that and we're going to translate that into our business side of things. And we're going to start out with something called the business budget macro categories. So this is kind of the overarching categories. So here's what we know. We have net profit first. That's the number we just calculated. Now to get there, the first number we calculate is something called net income. It's also known as taxable income. And basically what that is, it's your net profit plus the taxes that you are going to pay. So those two things are together, and we call that taxable income. The next one is going to be cost of sales. So cost of sales is the money that you spend only if you have a closing. So anybody here have a cap with your office? You have a split that you pay to the office? Anybody have that? Okay, great. So, or any money that you might pay to your office out of your commissions, that would be cost of sales. If you pay out anything that is for like, and I'm just losing my train of thought there, so forgive me on that. So anything that you're paying out, for example, if you're paying a transaction coordinator out of your commissions, it's something that you might do there. So those are anything that are coming out of commission. Now, I get a question a lot. Well, would my marketing, for example, let's say I have a listing and I'm going to do the staging and I'm going to do the pictures and I'm going to do all that. Would that come out of cost of sales? And the answer is no, because what if the home does not sell? If the home does not sell, then you are still going to be making those payments. And so what does that come out of? That comes out of our expenses. Expenses is the money that you spend regardless of whether you have a closing. These are going to be things like your realtor dues, your MLS dues. It'll be continuing education classes. It might be gas for your car, your printing. It might be an office space that you pay for. Anything that is your ongoing, your technology, all of those things were ongoing that you're going to pay. Those are your expenses. The next thing we have is reserves. These are going to be at least 6 months of your expenses. Again, you want the business to be able to keep going just in case you don't have cost of sales. And I'm always going to tell you, the minimum is 6 months. Have a year of expenses in the bank. So when you are doing your own calculation, I'm really going to suggest that you put down there a year's worth of your expenses. We're going to work off the minimums today in my calculations, but that's going to be our best practice. So here's what we know. When we add our net income plus our cost of sales, plus our expenses, plus our reserves, that's going to equal our GCI, our gross commission income. And that's the amount of income that the business must produce in order to have that life that you've created. So now we're adding more and more of those numbers in, knowing the numbers in order to create that life that we want to live. Can you see now how we're tying those things? It's not just, I just want to do 24 transactions because I did, it's what I did last year, which doesn't really emotionally tie you to something. And sometimes we can just, if we don't make it our first or second month, we're not hitting our goals. We go, oh, okay, I'll just adjust my closings down. When those numbers are tied to something else, we are much more likely to go ahead and hit those numbers. So if there's a life we really want to live, and we know what all of our numbers are that the business must produce to get there, we're much more likely to hit those goals. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and start calculating then these numbers. So if we know that our net profit goal is 200,000, let's figure out the numbers that we need to get there. So again, let's talk about Jane. And we're going to start off with net income. So here's the calculation to get to our taxable income or net income. Here's what we do. To calculate that taxable income, we subtract the tax rate from 100%. So let's say that she pays 25% in taxes. We're going to subtract that tax rate from 100%. Now, you're going to go to your CPA or your accountant, and they're going to help you understand what your tax rate is. This is just for example, but let's say it's 25%. So we're going to take that and we're going to be left with 75%. So we're going to take that 75% net profit and divide the net profit by that remaining percentage. So here's how that looks. We would take 200,000, divide it by 75%. We're not going to multiply it by 25%. We're going to divide it by 75%, and that's going to take our net income to $267,000. That's our net goal, our net profit goal plus our taxes. Then we go into our cost of sales. So this is the money, like I said, that you only pay if you close a transaction, your company split, your royalties, your TC, anything that's paid outside of it. And in our example, we're going to say 36,000 is going to be, so let's say 3,000 a month is going to be cost of sales. Then we're going to go into expenses. Again, this is the money that you spend regardless of whether you have a closing, so that'd be realtor dues, clock hour classes, marketing, lead generation, cost, technology, anything like that. So let's say in this one, be about 5,000 a month. So we're going to say about 60,000. I'm going to talk about reserves. That's a minimum of 6 months of your expenses. That's going to take us to 30,000. Again, that's going to be half of that expenses. We're not including cost of sales because again, that only gets paid if you have a closing. So reserves are going to be based on expenses. So then what we do, we add that GCI that equals your taxable income plus your cost of sales, plus your expenses, plus your reserves and quote. So for this, in our example, that's going to leave us $393,000. So we know that if we have a GCI, that's a number that we know we need to hit in order to get us to that $200,000 in net profit to fund the life that we want to live. Are you with me? Did I lose anybody? Feeling good? All right. All right. So now let's take a look at how the path to profit figures in with these numbers. All right. We first have lead generation, like I said, from lead generation that takes us to our appointments held. Then there's a conversion ratio that takes us to listings taken. So when you go on an appointment, maybe you don't have 100% of the time you get that listing or that buyer. So that's a conversion rate that takes us to our seller listings taken or buyer agency commitments. Then there is a conversion rate of that. So let's say we get that listing or we get that buyer, but it doesn't always close. So there's a conversion rate there that will take us to our closed sales that we need. Then what we do is we take our average commission per closing, we divide that into our closed sales. Okay. And that's going to give us our gross commission income. So average per closing, closed sales times, not divided to, sorry about that, closed sales times the average commission is going to get us to our GCI income. That's going to take us to our profit. And then profit is after taxes, cost of sales, expenses, and reserves. So again, we go through that lead gen, takes us to appointments, takes us to listings taken, takes us to closed sales, takes us to GCI, takes us to net profit. So now let's start taking a look at the rest of the numbers that we know we must hit. All right. So remember, we have 393,000 in GCI. That's our goal right now. So if we know that that's our goal, let's figure out, first of all, what our closed units are going to be. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to divide your GCI by last year's average GCI per transaction. So for example, let's say our average sales from last year was 500,000. We're going to multiply that by our average commission from last year. Let's say that was 3%. And then that's going to equal our commission per transaction, right? So let's say that was 15,000. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 393,000. I'm going to divide that by our 15,000, which is our average commission per transaction. So we say our total GCI divided by our GCI per transaction, that's going to give us 26.2 closed units. We can't have a 0.2 closed unit. So I'm going to round that up to 27. So instead of 26.2, we're just going to round it up to 27. All right, we know we need to have 27 closings in order to get to a GCI of 393,000. So now let's talk about conversion. So let's say last year, what percentage of the time did the listings taken, your seller listings and your buyer commitments, resulted in a closed transaction? So let's say in our example, it was 80% of the time. Now, yes, you need to go back. This is a number that you always want to track. How many times do you go from that listing taken and the deal closes? So like I said, we're going to make 80%. By the way, in a shifting market, do you think that you're not going to close 100% of the time? Could something fall out? Absolutely, it could, right? So now we go to our listings taken. So we divide the closed units goal by that conversion percentage. What does that mean? We're taking our 27. We're going to divide that by 80%. That's going to leave us 33.75 listings taken. Now, of course, we can't have a 0.75 of the listings taken. We're going to round that up to 34 listings taken. Okay, then we're going to have conversion there. So last year, what percentage of your appointments resulted in you taking the listing or getting the buyer? So let's say that was 75% this last year. Okay, so 75% of the times you went on the appointment and you got the client. So then what we do is we divide that listings taken goal by the conversion percentage, and that's going to take us to 46. So here's how that works. 34 is going to be our listings taken number. We're going to divide it by the conversion ratio. And again, we're not multiplying by, we're dividing by that conversion ratio. And that's going to equal 45.33. Again, we cannot have a percentage of an appointment. It's always full. So it's going to be 46. Okay. So we know we have 46 appointments we're going on to take 34 listings, to have 27 closed units for a GCI of 393,000, which is going to take us to a net profit of 200,000. All right. Are you with me? I'm going to do a little checkup from the neck up here. Did I lose anybody, or how many of you guys are going, wow, I got that? Got it? Anybody have a question before we move on that? You guys are amazing. I love this.
500,000 a transaction.
I like that. I see you think right. I like how that works. All right. Very good, guys. Okay. Now you have got in your packet there, you have got this calculation. So when you get home, this is exactly how you'll work it out. It's for you to figure out what that path to profit is for you. Now, here's the thing, by the way, and I'm actually going to stop my share one more time. All right. I know the answer to this for most agents, but let's see if you're like most agents. Okay, how many of you guys have a personal budget that you really track at home? Like you know exactly what your expenses are at home. Okay, a few of you. How many of you don't? You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. But we need to know that personal budget side. So in your packet, make sure when you go home, you want to be able to calculate that those personal budget macros. That's going to be important for you because that's going to lead to everything else. When you are running a business, you need to know all of your numbers. Now, how many of you just go, oh my gosh, when I am running my business, I hate numbers? Anybody just go, ooh. So it's like, here's what I'm seeing, these little hands going up like this. That's it. But yeah, we do, right? Here's the thing. When you're running a business, you need to know your numbers. This is where rubber meets the road. The very top agents know their numbers. And so that's why you want to do this calculation. You want to make sure that you go back and you can run these numbers. Okay, so now let's take a look at our example and how those numbers play out. All right, remember, we have our net profit is going to be 200,000. Of course, that's after taxes, cost of sales, expenses, and reserves. All of those things add together equals our GCI, right? Our gross commission income. We take that average commission of 15,000, we divide it into that 393,000. And when we round up, that's going to get us to our 27,000. Remember, we divide by our conversion rate from listings taken to closed sales of 80%. That's going to give us our 34 seller listings taken or buyer commitments. And but by the way, we can break those up even further, but these are just the big ballpark numbers. Then we have that conversion ratio from then when you went on the appointment to when you took that listing or that buyer, which took us to 46 appointments held for the year. And of course, that takes us to all the lead generation that we do. So let's take a look at really what that looks like for the year, very simplified. GCI goal of 393,000. Closed units for the year, that's going to be 27. That means we want to close 3 for the month. Listings taken 34, that's 3 for the month. By the way, that's we round up when we divide it by 12. And appointments 46, that's going to be 4 for the month. So pretty simple here. Your path to profit monthly is going to be 4 appointments held per month to take seller listings or buyers of 3 per month, to get closed per month of 3. And that's going to take us to a GCI of 32,750. Do you think that's possible? What do you think? Is that like a little easier than you probably thought before? Okay. Yeah. Right. When we break it down like that, makes it nice and easy. So here's what we have here, guys. That is the numbers. Those are the numbers that you must hit. So when we say need to know your numbers, those are the numbers you must hit. What kind of questions do we have right now? Any questions, or did you kind of really follow along and you felt good? This is the smartest room. Yeah.
So I'm curious, how do you track, when you started in the business, how did you track your numbers? Were you doing it daily? Were you doing it weekly? Was it a monthly thing? How are you tracking and what was your process for that?
Great question. Absolutely daily. Everything I did, I tracked those. Well, okay. I was like a lot of people. I didn't track my numbers right off the bat. I was just like doing everything I could possibly do. When I started, the number one number that I started tracking more than anything was from lead generation, the activities that I was going to, how many appointments I was going on. When I made that first change, when I started looking at that conversion, how much activity I was doing was ending up in an appointment, because appointments is the number one goal that you need to have. It's the one you can control. Everything else is it's a little different. So I started there. Then I started looking at my conversions. And I'm a numbers person. So as I went every single day, I looked at those numbers, ended up putting it in a spreadsheet, looking at it all the time. And then I got pretty good at, and again, this was before we had all of the really great technology that we have now that can track a lot of numbers. So there was a lot of input on my side of as far as what my activities were. Does that answer your question?
Does.
Okay.
Did you
What
track your activities? Did you track what was working for you and what wasn't? And how did you track that?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, we always want a return on investment, right? So any activity that I'm going to do, I need to have an anticipated ROI. Now, when you first start or in that first few years, you really don't necessarily know that. So we're going to talk a little bit about in a minute, just about a strategy plan and action plan that's going to help us start looking at how do we track those particular things for their efficacy. Okay. So I started doing things and some of those things worked just awful for me. For example, how many of you love FSBOs? Anybody love a FSBO in here? Okay. Not me. Oh, Lord. Every tick of the clock was another paper cut when I was dealing with FSBOs. Not my gig. Open houses, I found that was my jam. And I figured out how to make that work. And that basically those 36 transactions I did that first year, almost exclusively off of open houses. 75% of my business came from open houses that year. Okay. By the way, yes, I teach an open house mastery class. I've got it on our YouTube channel and I will help you find that if you'd like. But really, absolutely. It's such great questions, by the way. Great questions. Anything else or shall we move forward? Okay. All right. So like I said, we basically have our 4, 3, 3, and 32, 700. Now, let's get into though, and this is really important for you guys. It's identifying your client acquisition pillars. This is not in your handout. So this is the one, grab your phones. If you want to take some pictures of this stuff, you can certainly do it. But this is a piece that I think is so important for us to look at. So when we talk about your client acquisition pillars, this is basically where your business is coming from. I just mentioned two. I mentioned for sale by owners. I mentioned open houses. Here's what we know. 80% of agents get 90% of their business from their top 4 lead gen sources. Top 4 lead gen sources. Okay. So when we are talking about, and feel free to take a picture of this. You want to do that before I move on.
Hey, Cole,
Yeah.
you gonna get copies of the slides to pass out, or should we be taking screenshots?
You know what? How about we do both? I'll send you these slides, Austin.
Thank you.
When we're done, but you guys, if you want to take pictures, so you don't have to wait for it, you can do that, but at least this gives you some stuff. So the next ones are going to be the ones you really want to look at. So if we're talking about finding your core pillars from last year, here's the exercise that you can go through. First of all, or this year, make a list of all the clients with transactions you closed, and you want to do that for the last 3 years. We want to get a really good data set. So the last 3 years. Now, next to each of the names, you want to note what lead gen source that client came from. So was it from your farm? Was it from door knocking? Was it from your social media? Was it from referrals from your sphere of influence? It could be anything like that. So name where they came from. Then tally up each of the lead generation sources. So tally those up and then place each source in order from largest to smallest. So you make all those names. You're going to say, okay, where'd they come from? Okay, tally up how many you had. So I had, 10 from open houses. I had 22 was from my sphere of influence, whatever that looks like. And then the top 4 highest in number are your most effective lead generation sources. Now, here's the thing. This is usually really surprising for a lot of agents. The one that they thought was their biggest, they actually don't know. So this is data that we are looking at. So this is the exercise you absolutely want to go through as soon as possible. So then we can get to the rest of it. So this is your exercise. So here's the thing. You're going to rate each of these top 4 according to how much you enjoy it on a scale of 1 to 10. Man, my first one, it was awesome for me. I loved it. It was a 10 out of 10. First of all, here's the question you ask. Is it still enjoyable? You may have loved to do something, but now it's become tedious, or it's something you just don't really like to do anymore. So let's find out, is it still enjoyable? If so, will this lead generation source work at a high level in the current market? We all know we're in that shifting market. Will it work in this current market? Will each of your top lead gen sources provide you enough leads for your annual goals? Will they get you there? And finally, if you wanted to add or replace a source, what would your next choice of lead generation source be? Now, right now in a shifting market, we may need to change up what we've been doing in the past. For example, this has been huge. Some people have just been sitting there and the phone's ringing automatically from their sphere of influence because it's been such a hot market. Now we're seeing that shifting a market. And no, I do not believe a crash is coming in the slightest. I know Austin will tell you the same thing. Having said that, it is shifting. So understanding this is important. So this is the exercise you're going to do to find your core pillars. All right. And take a picture of that before I move forward, if you want to. We got it. We're good. All right. Moving on. Now, this is the next piece that is really, really, really important for us. And after we know the numbers, after we know what our lead generation pillars are, by the way, there are a lot more calculations to how do you figure out from how many people you have in your database to how many anticipated closings you should get from that database, or based on the number of closings, how many people you need to have in your database. We're not going to go through those today, but those are really important numbers to know as well. But we're going to start going into something called your strategy plan and your action plan. All right. Now we start off with something called SMART goals. Raise your hand if you've heard of a SMART goal before. Anybody heard of a SMART goal? Okay, a couple of you guys. Fantastic. So let's review that. A SMART goal is one that is specific. It is measurable. It is attainable. It is relevant, and it is time-bound. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So if I say, you know what, I want to do more deals this year, this coming year than I did this last year, is that a SMART goal? No. But if I say I want to do 15 more transactions than I did last year, and I want to do that by August, is that a SMART goal? Is it specific? Yep. Is it measurable? Yes. Attainable? Sure. Is it relevant? Maybe, if it means I'm going to get what I need to get. And finally, if it's time bound, I want to get it to by August. So that's an example of a SMART goal. You're always going to apply the SMART goal, or your SMART look at any of the numbers. Is it SMART? Okay, so let's talk about creating your strategy plan. Now, this is going to be a high-level overview. This is a piece that when we work with our clients, we go in depth with it, but let's give you a good idea of what it looks like. Okay, so we start off with something called your wildly important goal. This wildly important goal is the goal you created on your path to profit. It should be big enough to create excitement and even scare you just a little bit. It is the goal that you would be most proud to attain. That's your wildly important goal. All right, after that, then we break that goal into strategies. So these are primary strategies, and these will be the top 4 strategies that will drive your focus and your activities to attain your wildly important goal. Then we take those strategies, our overarching themes, and we break those into tactics. And tactics are simply the strategy. In each strategy, you'll have 3 to 5 specific actions or tactics that you will take for each of the strategies. So while the important goal, we're going to take we're going to make a strategic plan around those, and then we're going to break that down into actionable steps. So here's what we know. In the Jane's example here, so for our agent Jane, she wanted to close 27 transactions in 2023 to achieve $393,000 in GCI to get $200,000 in net profit. So let's see how she's planning on getting there. So first of all, she has her strategies. Her first strategy is sphere of influence. She wants to take 6 closed listings and have 5 closed buyers and add 200 closed or contacts added to her database in 2023. Again, that is a SMART goal. Her next one is going to be open houses. She wants to have 3 closed listings, 8 closed buyers with 200 contacts added to her database from her open houses. Social media, she wants to get 3 closed listings for the year with 2 closed buyers and add 100 contacts to her database. And then for her, she also wants to really focus on growth. So she wants to build a team. So she wants to focus on that so she can build that team. She wants to build her own leadership skills and build negotiation skills. So let's break those up into tactics. So for example, in her sphere of influence, let's say that she wants to implement a 13-week connection cycle. Sometimes this is just called your quarterly call plan, right? So you call through your database. You guys might have heard about this. You call through your database every quarter. Now there is a plan to go behind that. Here's something to share with you. Most agents are going to start in January. All of you guys are going to start in January. You're going to have your database. You're going to get so excited. So you're going to start calling because you're all fired up. And you're going to start with your A's. And then you might get through your B's, your C's, your D's. Most of the time people get to G and they stop. Life gets in the way. So now we get to like April or May, you go, oh, okay, I need to do this again. I really need to start. Guess what letter most people start with when they restart it? A, right? So here's the thing. When you start with A, you're loving on all those A's through G's, but all the people beyond that, you're not loving on them. So there is a strategic plan that actually says, okay, here's or a tactical plan where it says, okay, I'm going to call 2 letters of the alphabet. I'm going to really spread those out. We're not going to talk about that today, but there is a plan for that. Let's say you're going to be hosting quarterly affinity events. So those are going to be with your vendor partners. Maybe a biannual equity evaluations. Equity evaluations are basically CMAs for people in your database that are not thinking about selling anytime soon. Weekly newsletters and drawings, maybe a monthly pop by for your A's and A pluses. A's are people who have referred you at least once. A pluses are people who have referred you more than once. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. You guys do have this example here, but you're going to notice how we have tactics. These are things to do in each of these. Okay. For example, 4 open houses, create videos for pre-open social media blasts, host special Facebook Live event during the open house. We can get in our social media. What are the things that we're going to do in our social media? Keep things moving forward. Next, how about your growth plan? So in this one, maybe this person wanted to take a neurolinguistic program practitioner training. Maybe the 7 Habits for Managers course with Stephen Covey's group. Read 1 leadership book a month. So this is going to be basically our base business plan for our 2023. We've got our numbers tied to it. We have our strategies with it, and it's got tactics. All right, this you're going to review probably once a quarter to make sure it's still on track. You can make adjustments as you go. Now, I'm also going to tell you, you're going to look at it monthly just as a reminder, maybe even weekly. Now, let's take this plan and we're going to move it over into actions. But before I do that, how do we do? Did we get it? Does that make sense? Everybody's on it with me so far? You're a smart group. Love this group. All right. Now let's say you're smart. I like it. Okay. So let's take that and let's put that into an action plan. So here's how the action plan looks. Basically, we have our annual wildly important goal. So that's the one from our strategy plan. Now, this month's goal, these are the must-do goals. Okay, so if we have, these are the things that must be accomplished in order to stay on track for your wildly important goal. So that's what must happen that month. And then finally, for each week, these are the things that must be accomplished during each week in order to stay on track for your monthly must must-do goals. Now, by the way, this action plan is not a to-do list, it's a must-do list. Okay. Now, here's the thing a concept I want to share with you before we move on here. If you erase, you must replace. That basically means if you did not take an action that you had on your plan, you can't just take it off. You got to replace it somewhere else. So as we go through, we're going to see a little bit of an example of that. So here we are, we have our wildly important goal. We've already seen this before, 27 closed transactions to achieve 393,000 in GCI, to receive 200,000 in net profit. Now, I don't know if you remember on our strategy plan, we wanted to do 4 open houses a month, but here's what we did. Maybe we did not get to 2 of those last month. If we erase, we must replace. So in this month, I need to up that game. So now we're going to host 6 open houses for this month. I want to launch a new Facebook group. Maybe I want to create 5 videos for social media, take my master certified negotiations course because that was on my strategy plan. And then I want to add 50 new contacts to the database this month. So how does that break down? So that's the stuff I need to do for this month. So I'm going to start off with week 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now here's your best practice. The last week of the month, you're going to be creating this plan for the following month. Then you're going to be sitting down and you're going to be writing out what are the things that need to happen based on what I have on my strategy plan. So you're going to see here that we have week 1, for example, schedule and host an open house with a Facebook Live event, create 2 videos, do my week 5 calls, call cycle calls, post in the Spectrum neighborhood. So that's just a name of a particular neighborhood, market update. So you see, as we go through, we're going to map out what we're going to do for that particular month. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take those actions. I'm going to make sure that they are time blocked on my calendar. So you guys have probably heard you need to have a time blocked calendar. Now I'm going to take these things and put it on my calendar. Here's what we know. When those things are on your calendar, we get those things done. But if your calendar is all sorts of a jumbled mess or you don't have things time blocked, everything can become a distraction. But if I know what these should look like, and I won't be able to go through that with you today, but like I said, I have a solution for you in a minute on that. We discover is that if you have a time block calendar, consider your calendar your boss. Is your calendar a strict boss? I have a very strict boss. I tell you what. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, with your calendar currently, would your boss fire you? Are you really following that calendar to a T? Are you taking these actions and following them? Here's the cool thing. When you have a time block calendar, you go into your office, you open up a calendar, tells you exactly what to do for the day. You know exactly where to go. It's already, the plan is set for you. Now, here's another best practice. The end of the week, you're going to take a look at this past week and go, what did I do? Did I accomplish all the things that I needed to accomplish? If not, if I erase, I must replace. I'm going to add those in to the next weeks. I'm going to make sure that I'm always on track. So this particular piece you are looking at all the time, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, certainly on a monthly basis, and you're always comparing that against your strategic plan. You guys will have so many things coming at you. I know you see this. You get a million emails every day. That is the next bright and shiny thing. But if you have a strategic plan that you are following, that bright and shiny doesn't get in your way. Now, you might do quarterly going, okay, I think I want to add something here. Maybe I need to change things up. So you're looking at your strategic plan and maybe you need to change things. Sure, no problem. But ultimately, what you want to get to is an action plan that is time blocked, that's going to help you. All right. What do you think? We've gone through a lot here. Did we learn some new things so far? Feeling good? What kind of questions do you guys have? Or what are your biggest ahas or observations of what we've gone through? Give me a couple of those.
Mine, I need a better accountability partner.
I love, first of all, that you have an accountability partner. Smart man, outstanding. Always have a better one. Partners are so important. We talk about that a lot in our programs. What else?
I like what you said about the calendar being your boss. Setting that routine structure up so that you have that level of accountability, and then just making sure that it's planned out. You know, week 4 is key to ensuring weeks 1, 2, and 3 are successful.
Outstanding observation. Great job. Yeah. Who else? Let's take 2 more.
I've got more clarity on how to use my assistant, like pushing off a lot of the tracking and visuals and stuff like that to her. So probably a more effective use of her.
Outstanding. Love that. Yeah. The more things that you can do that are client facing and your assistant can take off these kind of things. Great job. How big is your team?
2. Just
2.
me and her.
You and her. Great. Love it. All right. Let's get one more. One more aha, one more observation. I'll wait.
All good.
Okay.
I think kind of what you said about the calendar being your boss, I would be fired, so I really need
There you go. Get a really strict boss. Okay. Yeah.
What percent of your, I mean, talk about batting average with your calendar. I mean, is it like 100%? Or is it like 75%? What's the tolerance in that calendar if your boss thing?
So you mean as far as following the calendar and things actually getting accomplished that's on your calendar?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What would the best percentage be? Like if you did this percentage, where would you feel successful?
So when I first started in the business, I was 100%. Everything I didn't leave the office until what I needed to get done for that day was completed. And I had a lot of nights where I was in the office until 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, because I refused to leave until every single thing on my calendar was done. I've kind of given myself a little bit more grace over the last couple of years on that, and try to prioritize a little bit more of what are the things that are absolutes that I have to get done that day, that the client can't wait, that somebody can't wait on, that I'm going to hurt somebody else's life or their processes if I don't get it done today, versus maybe this thing isn't as important as it was before. Maybe I've understood that people will wait on me. And so I would say right now I'm probably at about 80% of what I put on my calendar that I get done. But I also prioritize everything when I put it on there as has to be done today, has to be done this week, has to be done this month. So that when at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I have time to do that. I'm gonna keep going on the things that need to be done this week versus, okay, that one I'm not gonna run out of time. I gotta go coach my son's soccer team. I'm out the door. Everything I needed to do today is done. The things that I wanted to get to that are just for this week are gonna have to wait until tomorrow.
Can everybody see how that was so well thought out? Like there's actual methodology in this thought process and how to answer that. You guys, it's your business. You get to decide, what kind of commitment are you making into that business and the things you're doing. Is it 100%? Is it 95%? Like if you're feeling really good, if you're at 90%, if you're 80%, you guys get to decide what that looks like. Okay. You get to decide what success looks like in your world. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you give yourself a pass. I have 3 coaches. None of them give me a pass because I've asked them not to give me a pass. Okay. It's up to you. Make sense? All right. So can I share some good stuff with you then? I told you that in business planning, we can't really get to all of it today. Now, on my company, we have a program and it is called 12 Weeks to Breakthrough. And what that basically is a 12 weeks business planning boot camp. By the way, the people who take our program, from the time they start the program, and it's a 3-month program, within 6 months, they have doubled or tripled their business using the program. I am so proud of our coaches, and I'm so proud of our program and the people who do that. So really, really, really important. And what I want to do is I want to actually go through what that program entails. So first of all, the first thing to understand is that it is a self-driven program that has coaching. So the first thing is there are 12 weeks. Each week has a module. Each module is made up of video lessons that you would go through. And in those lessons, then after the lessons, you would have a coaching session with your coach to help you implement what you learned for your particular business. So let's take a look at what the program can look like. So first of all, we start off with week 1 is going to be the orientation. Orientation is all about, okay, how do I approach this program? How do I really work with my coach? Do I understand what training and coaching is? What are the levels of competency that I'm going to be going through? So it's giving you a baseline education of what's going to work for you going through the program. And of course, this was going to have 4 lessons in it. And then then you have your live coaching session. Now, the next one is we base everything off of our mindset. Mindset's so important. So we have 4 lessons there, and we have live coaching there. We have an amazing personality assessment that we actually have you take to really deep dive into this one, which is actually pretty cool. Next, know your numbers. We take what we've learned here and then we actually build on it quite a bit, especially on our lead gen numbers, knowing what those are and how do I apply those to my business. Next is client acquisition. You're going to notice that I don't use the term lead generation. This is really about you acquiring clients. This is more than lead generation. There's a lot bigger pieces to that. That's a big one. So that's going to have 6 lessons in it. So you get 2 coaching sessions that week if you need it. Next one is the client experience. Are you creating such an experience for your clients that they cannot help but refer you? Powerful, powerful stuff. There is a whole exercise we go through here so you can create that client experience or have your assistant help do that with you. Next is articulating your value. A lot of agents, when they go on a listing appointment, they tell you what the price is going to be. They cover price, they cover marketing, about getting the home on the market, but then they stop there. This is about articulating your value all the way past the point of closing. By the way, inside this particular module, there's also negotiations. So if you guys are really looking for negotiations, it's in that module. All right, now we start talking about time. This is where we really deep dive into our strategy plan and our action plan and our time block calendar. We really take all of the things that we've just been learning, and now let's put that into an actionable space. Now, once we've done that, by the way, that's you work with your coach very carefully on your particular business on the strategy plan and action plan. Next is operations. Okay, how do I set up my operations really successfully? This is everything from your finances to if you're building a team, what does that look like? What are all your checklists? What is your standard operations manual? All of those things that make up your operations. Again, this is a very big module, so you could have 2 coaching sessions if you'd like on that particular module. Now, the next thing we do is a gap analysis. So we have gone through knowing your numbers and your client acquisition and your client experience and your value and your time and your operations and your gaps. Okay, or your time and operations. So now we want to know what those gaps are. Do you need to go back and relook at some of the lessons? Is there a book that you need to read? Are there some people that you need to meet? Where are the gaps? Because then we put your growth plan together that fills in the gaps. So now we're going to take action on what we discovered in the gap analysis. The next one, ooh, I love this one. This is the path of money. This is all about passive income. How do you have your money make money? There's a lot of really cool pieces in this one. And then finally, what are the next steps? So now you have gone through everything. Okay. Now, how do you keep it going? So in that 6-month time period, you do have that doubling or tripling. By the way, I've had a couple of our clients quadruple their business in that 6 months time period. So we teach you a lot of the things in those first 12 months. It's going to take you time to get all of the things that you learned really in place. You can certainly continue coaching with us after that 3 months to get you over to that next 12 months. So we do all of those things. All right. Basically, this is designed to have everything build on the previous thing. Okay. So if you want to learn more about this, it's very simple. You just go to program-overview.breakthroughre.net. Great fun. Having said that, I'm so excited. I'm doing this for Austin because he's such a great guy. Okay. If you would like, you can actually schedule a complimentary business consultation with me where we get to talk all about your business. We deep dive into, okay, what's working, what's not working, and I give you some insights. If you would like this, go ahead and scan this QR code. I've been having some wonderful conversations with agents all over the country. Lots and lots of fun here. So feel free to schedule that. That's going to basically take you to my calendar, and you can find a spot that works great for you. And then we'll sit down and talk all about your business. Here's the only thing I ask you to do. If you do schedule something, please pick a date that you absolutely will not miss, no matter what. You wouldn't even schedule a client because we're going to do this. I have a very strict boss. My calendar is a very strict boss. So when I put someone on my calendar, I want to absolutely make sure that I'm respecting your time and we're respecting my time. So if you do my favor, that would be awesome. By the way, we have something really exciting coming in January. We have our brand new programs called Jumpstart. It's training and coaching for new real estate agents. So if there's somebody you know that needs the absolute fundamentals, it's a pretty big program. It's awesome. And that one's going to start in January. Very, very cool. Now, for those of you guys who aren't on our Facebook group, love to have you join our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/breakthroughre. Join us. We'd love to have you there. I think I've got it all, Austin.
Cole, you mentioned something about jumping on the YouTube channel.
Oh,
Where would we find links to that?
I tell you what, here's what I'm going to do is give me 2 seconds and I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can grab, basically you're looking for a Finley-RE. It's our Finley YouTube channel, but I'm going to show it to us here.
Can we find that on your Facebook group too, if we join that?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
Absolutely
perfect.
can. And by the way, I will actually send this video back to you, Austin, and you can share it out with everybody
Wonderful.
if you would like. Okay.
Yes, that'd be
We
great.
can do that. All right. And I'm just going to do a little, actually, let me put it over here so we can see it. Here's a little screen share on our YouTube channel. By the way, we do something called a weekly Wednesday webinar. Every single Wednesday, we have really top people in our webinar. So I've got playlists here. These are really very, very cool. So you have got over here our weekly Wednesday webinar playlist. There's just a lot of cool videos on there. We started this channel just a couple months ago. So when you guys go to it, but just as Finley-RE, coaching and consulting. Okay.
Perfect.
Anything else?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Cole. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all your time today. Brad and I were back there scribbling feverishly through most of this. So even as loan officers, I know we took lots and lots from it. So thank you very much for that.
You are
Any
so
final
welcome.
Questions for Cole from the group here? Yes.
Yeah.
What, are there any softwares or programs that you recommend for CRMs or systems? Yes, I know some people use Google Drive, some people use, their brokerages CRM, some people use a third party. Do you have anything that you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. We actually have this piece in our program as well. So you've got the ones from your company that you could use. There's free versions that you can use, and then there's kind of the top ones, right? So if you're like with Remax or you're with Keller Williams, some of those guys have some really good ones. Maybe EXP, they've got some. So those are ones you can check out. If you want a free version, I think my favorite one is HubSpot. They have a whole free version there you can use, which is great. It's a good basic CRM. you can do, or if you want to do the top ones, top producer, wise agent, those are some that have a lot more bells and whistles. Sync, C-I-N-C is another one. Mhm. My favorite, this is the one that my team uses, is Brivity. B-R-I-V-I-T-Y. That is a very robust program. So it just depends on what your spend is. I'm always going to tell you, if you haven't used one before, start with free, work your way up, unless you've got it already planned inside your budget. So you may want to plan on it for 2023 and just go big or go home. It's up to you. Great question. Anything else?
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Cole, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you today. Tell Steve, thanks again if you talk to him, and yeah, thank you.
You bet, you guys. We'll see you later.
All right, thanks.